The bipole election results and the message BJP refuses to read. Welcome, Vanakkam, Swagatham. In the recently concluded by-elections to 13 assembly constituencies spread over several states, BJP has managed to win only 2 out of the 13 constituencies. One went to an independent and the rest, namely 10, went to the India Alliance or Indi Alliance to be precise. In contrast, you had the elections to the Legislative Council of Maharashtra, where the BJP, true to its perfected art of purchasing opposition votes, managed to win a majority of seats. These two events taking place more or less at the same time, if not exactly simultaneously, present a study in contrast. And I see a connection between the two. I'm convinced that the more BJP sticks to its time-tested strategy of using money power, taking advantage of the weakness of opposition party MLAs, the more it will weaken itself, the more it will lose credibility, the more it will lose its sheen and shine, and its image will continue to sink in popular imagination. The BJP should never forget the fact that the sense of fervent national expectations the party managed to awaken way back in 2014, in the run-up to the general elections then, was largely on account of the moral plank it managed to display so convincingly to the people of India by pitting itself against the presumably corrupt track record of the Congress party, by promising an absolutely zero tolerance towards corruption kind of governance culture to the people of India, which they welcomed with great fervor and excitement. The promise that na khaunga, na khane dunga, namely that India will be a place of zero tolerance for corruption, turned out to be in course of time, as the people of India are increasingly realizing that it meant only corruption of the opposition parties. The more intolerance towards corruption of opposition parties is practiced, the more corruption became a monopoly of the ruling coalition, in particular the dominant party in the coalition. The people of India have been mute witnesses to strident examples, incidents, expressions of corruption. And all that the BJP, particularly its master tactician and most charismatic vote catcher, Narendra Modi, denounced. Every pattern of corruption that he denounced in the Congress party and opposition parties in general came home to rule the roost. And each time question was raised about it, it was defended on the curious plea that nobody else has any moral right to question the practices of the BJP because they all have been sailing in the same boat. And yet the party maintained its claim that it's a party with a difference. And for a while, the voters of India put up with this contradiction that the party with a difference behaves exactly the way all other parties behaved. If anything, a little more cleverly, but far more effectively. And I think a point of no return is already reached. The party has squandered its credibility, particularly among the Hindus. And that's a very significant thing. The recent setbacks the BJP has suffered is not on account of religious minority voters. It's on account of enlightened Hindu voters who refuse to be taken for a ride, who refuse to have their intelligence insulted, and who refuse to swallow whatever propagandist uh, what do you call stuff is cooked and dished out to them. Now, therefore, the message that I read in this particularly alarming results in the bipolar elections can be quickly reviewed. First of all, the brutal practice of corrupt politics by which MLAs from other parties were bought wholesale, as in the case of Maharashtra, for example, and several other states, has had a devastating effect on the morale of the BJP itself, in the sense that its cadre got thoroughly cheesed off and seriously demotivated. As of now, their morale is at the lowest ebb. So, what was an immediate gain has turned out to be a long term loss, and loss of a very serious kind. So, in indulging in this kind of blatantly corrupt practices, in upsetting opposition governments, and in setting up BJP governments by throwing money power and purchasing MLAs of the opposite camps, the BJP has been too clever by half. They seem to be very smart in this moral jungle of unconscionable politics. They seem to be delivering the goods, as it were, but the goods that they delivered now look rather different and dubious in quality. And it is casting a very unfavorable reflection on the merchants of this dubious stuff. Now, what complicates it even further is a fact. As against the propagandist flourish of doing great governance, not only good governance, but great governance, India being steadily pushed to a new haven of development, and every Indian being taken to unprecedented heights of personal welfare and collective security, the experience of people on the ground is exactly the opposite. Life is becoming much harder for them, harder than ever before. And this gulf, this widening gulf between the propagandist flourish and the sting of day to day life cannot but have a disastrous consequence, mainly in awakening a spirit of righteous indignation among the people, because now people increasingly feel that they are being taken for a ride, they are being cheated. So, this is an issue that's now staring in the face of the BJP through these elections that they have so roundly lost. Yet another issue that the BJP cannot but take note at this time is that they can no longer win elections by merely discrediting opposition leaders, as has become or seems to have become second nature to the BJP, particularly its main vote catchers, including Narendra Modi. As I have already uh, dealt with in one of the previous videos, the idea that Rahul Gandhi can be managed by simply calling him Balak Buddhi, as though with two words, the genuine leadership qualities and the political sincerity and the commitment of the man to the welfare of the people, which is so evident nationwide, to which people are responding with overwhelming and increasing enthusiasm and growing faith, can all be destroyed with two words, Balak Buddhi. Those days are gone. It will not work anymore. Rather, this strategy will become more and more counterproductive. The more unfair, low minded denigration is inflicted on opposition party leaders, the more the democratic spirit is vitiated and insulted, the more the discerning voter of India will leave the BJP camp, concluding that this is purely a party of negativities from which nothing positive should ever be expected, and that if these people are allowed to stay in power, the plight of the common man will be miserable, hopeless. There is anxiety spreading right across the country, and I'm surprised that the BJP, which I thought was a party which had its ears to the ground, seems to be completely cut off from the realities of the life of the people, and therefore they seem to be floating among their own fictions, their own assumptions, which are not any longer connected with the life of the people. You see, propaganda will work for 5 years, 10 years, but then propagandist material will wither away in the heat of the suffering of the people. There's a limit to which propaganda can take you. And in this context, let me quote a few words from that great scientist Albert Einstein in a slightly different context. He said, "Your brilliance can take you to the top, but it's your character that keeps you there." Very memorable words. Your brilliance can take you to the top, but it's character that keeps you there. Now let's adapt that statement by Albert Einstein to our context. The electoral strategies, the extreme shrewdness of the Chanakya of India, Sri Amit Shah ji, stood the party in great stead in generating an initial electoral momentum and also in helping spread the footprint of the party across the Indian subcontinent, though in doing so, the party had to resort to blatantly unethical ways, which every individual, every even uneducated Indian citizens could see through. All that is now becoming counterproductive. That momentum is gone, that euphoria has died out, and the famous Modi magic now looks a thing of the past. Just in such a short span of time, the spell of the Modi magic is broken. And going by the social media reports, which I now these days scan much more than the reports you may gather from mainstream media, leaders from various states are expressing their anxiety that if Narendra Modi and Amit Shah come and do their election propaganda work, election campaigns, there would be increasing reaction from the people, and the parties could, the candidates could lose elections. So in a quick span of time, in a sudden turn of the screw, so Narendra Modi, from being a sure vote catcher and election winner, seems to become, if these reports are true, I don't know, I have not personally gone and done any survey on the ground. I'm basing this opinion based on reports I gather from social media networks. These two are becoming a kind of electoral liabilities. Now, there are reasons for it. I'm simply trying to identify some of these reasons. And I'm doing so not to sort of label the party as a finished force, a force that's expired, but to underline the fact that the party now needs to rethink its strategies. As everyone knows, flexibility, resilience, adaptability, or the capacity to adapt oneself to changing context is the sign of life and vitality. And this is the time the BJP needs to show that it is alive and kicking. It has that inner resilience and its creativity and the capacity to adapt to the changed scenario nationally, that it can read the writings on the wall and adjust itself or fine-tune itself accordingly. Whatever strategies it banked on heavily till now are proving a liability. They're proving counterproductive. Time has come to rethink the strategies of BJP. And I'm sure they are quite capable of it because it has an amazing think tank. But the problem lies in this, that once a party has registered tremendous victories, then it gets addicted to those measures that guaranteed or secured those victories. And then they tend to deify those strategies and turn those strategies into idols from which they find it difficult, incapable of departing. You become entrapped in your own strategies. That's a price that you have to pay for your victories and your gains in the past. I hope that's not the case. I hope that the message that's so very glaring through these election results, in which 11 out of 13 seats are lost or won by non BJP candidates, is a rude jolt that should wake any party up from its slumber. And I'm sure that it will happen, and BJP will come to its senses, rethink its strategies, and get itself ready for the next phase of its engagement with the political scenario of India. But it is undoubtedly an election result that nobody can belittle the significance of. And surely this will give a tremendous boost to the morale of the Indie alliance, and it will have definite consequences for the three major forthcoming assembly elections, which is what the BJP would now think of as a nightmare. So let's wait and see. After all, we don't have to wait for long. These elections are almost round the corner, then a period of 6 to 9 months. That will have a significant impact on how the political destiny of India will shape itself in the coming years. It is such a significant period. So let's watch with keen but responsible and mature interest as to how things play out and how parties fare in the coming days. And in all of this, I have certain very definite concerns regarding the health of our parliamentary democracy, and I hope to share some of these concerns with you in the ensuing videos. And some of these videos will deal with subjects that are subtle. I would not have shared such thoughts with audience of a different kind. Today I have the confidence to deal with some of these topics, the topics that are going to deal with regarding the parliamentary system of India, only because I am now convinced beyond any reasonable doubt that my viewers have the maturity, the patience, the keen interest to understand some of these most important trends, subtle though they be, regarding the health and wholeness of our democracy, because these issues affect us in a very substantial manner. And at least from the perspective of inspired self interest, we should take an active and cognitive interest in these developments, these formations, and these deformations. More of that in succeeding videos. For the time being, I take leave of you, wishing you all the very best, wishing in particular that the democratic destiny of India be guided aright and the people of India reach the destination that they deserve. I can never renounce my faith in the greatness of India. And when I say that I would rather choose India than any other country in the world, some people think that I'm exaggerating. I am not. I've had the occasion to visit and spend considerable amount of time in at least 17 to 18 countries in the world. But I tell you that I have not found any other country, including the UK, the United States of America, Germany, and so on and so forth, anywhere near as intellectually stimulating for me, as intellectually stimulating as the Indian context is. I find the Indian context very rich, very complex, very challenging, very stimulating, extremely stimulating. And that reinforces my conviction that the genius of India is absolutely exciting. But unfortunately, we've not been able to do justice to the true scope of our genius. My only prayer is that this country would move, in spite of ourselves, move towards a stage in which it begins to do justice to its incomparable genius as a people of great promise. Thank you. Jai Hind.